Up to you now. If this is closed, not gonna come back. Is this way now, right? This will.
Alright, everybody remember this?
Yes.
What are we talking about here? We are talking about Stlc phases. What the first phase? Initiation, which means
Need.
you
Have a need.
have a need. System concept development, which we do the prototype. Right? Then you have planning. And system concept is development. After that planning part, what that comes in?
Requirements analysis.
No, before that.
Before planning?
Yeah, during the planning, what do we do?
Gather information.
Who's gonna do what?
Okay, what else?
You plan the tests.
And for example, business policy, some, legal issues, security, budgets, and all those. Right? What about the requirement analysis? What is that?
The business analysis.
What's this? What do we do there?
That is
We
data.
gather.
We gather what information from the users, the client,
We gather information from the clients. Who does that?
business analyst.
Business analyst. And what he does, when he does that, what kind of things he writes?
Cases. What?
No,
Stories.
stories.
User stories.
User stories.
Okay, so what is a user story?
User stories, so details.
I think it's a laundry. Laundry type.
The user story would be an end user will tell you what he's going to do, what he will expect from the system. Right.
Is a tool
Right.
that used to capture. There's an extra T in here. Who didn't notice that? There's an
You
extra
just
T
put
here.
it, isn't it?
It's a bug.
No, it's not.
It's a mistake.
It's a bug, true.
Everything is a
Yeah, everything is a bug. Blame it on the bug. So, capture description of a software feature to end user perspective. So what does user story means? Is whatever end user see from there. But this is what you do, how you write it, user story. As a user, I'm gonna upload the picture so that my friends can see it, or I can share it with my friends. So you have role. Who is this? User. Feature. That is what am I gonna do
Upload.
and why am I doing it? Reason. Okay. Just a revision. And why user story is important? We're gonna come into that today. User story important because one of the methodology called Agile, they use user story. In Agile Scrum, they use user story. Now, what is the use case?
story.
Steps.
Use case.
This is the user's actions. So I'm going to do something and I'm going to get a response. So remember that when you give the definition in your interview, write down. It's a document that the user, that describes the user action and the system requirements for a specific functionality. So you are going to hit the login button, it's going to log in. Do you understand that? So I'm gonna hit this remote right now with the power button. What is going to happen?
Turn on.
It's going to turn off. And if I press it again, it's going to turn on. Does it going to do anything else?
No.
No. So only functionality is has is turning on, turning off. That's all its functionality. So I'm going to have an action, pressing the button. What is the response I'm getting? It's going to turn on. Okay. So that's the use case. But use case, what does use case have?
Video? No, video call.
I'm doing it. Not video. Just recording. So what does use case do? What does use case have? This is what you gotta have. They're gonna say, what does use case have? It has cover page, revision history, table of contents, flow of events, normal and alternate. Which was the example for that?
Oh, এটা ইয়েতে করছিলাম, লন্ড্রিতে।
The laundry.
আচ্ছা, এজাইল একটা কথা বলি, এটা কিন্তু খুবই খুবই ইম্পর্টেন্ট, এটা পুরো ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট একটা ইয়ে আছে এজাইল যেটা করা হয়েছে।
Okay, what is design? What do we do in design?
ডিজাইন হলো একটা লেআউট।
Okay, layout, good. What else we do? After gathering the requirements, when the business analyst passes it to the configuration manager, send it to the developer or the QA lead or project manager, whoever sends it to the designer. The design, the application. The application they're going to design. So what does that do? They do screen layouts, they do diagrams, which is mock design. So you're not going to have an application, but you have a screenshot of the whole application. So login functionality is going to have a page of like this, where they're going to say, this is here, username with password, you're going to have a login button here, this is going to be the logo, and that. So you have a design there, but you can't do anything in there. That's just a design. That's what? Design, and then right after that, what happens?
Hierarchy.
No, not the hierarchy. They do a prototype. Okay? They do a prototype. So they do that, there are a lot of back and forth, okay, change this and all these things happens in between. Prototype. So prototype means that let's say I wanna make a pen. Right? So I made a pen, that straight a pen, and then I made it like this right now. Like think about it. But the person who made it, he goes, look, listen, I don't want it this big. I want it a little smaller. I want a cap bigger. I don't want it like marker, but I want rather an ink pen. So even though I made a prototype, but it changed. So it doesn't have to be exact, but I have a basic idea. It's a preliminary idea. It's very primitive.
Example.
It's an example. It's
So
a primitive.
brainstorm.
So after that, what comes in? Design. They're gonna send it to the design architect. They do this, and they send it to the developer. Developer does what?
Coding.
Do the coding. Exactly. And after that,
Testing our job.
okay, and that's where we come in. And after the testing, what happens? There is one in between testing and implementation that is called user acceptance testing. We talked about last week, remember alpha testing, beta testing? Right? One alpha testing is the one the user, end user or the client comes into your station, in-house, and in front of the developer, they do the testing and they say, okay, I accept it. That's like a internal acceptance. And then you do the beta testing, which is you send the whole application and make it in the real life environment where the client is, their end user tested, and then they give you feedback, and then if there is any change or something, developers change it. So in between these there is one. We're going to talk about that right now. So now, operation and maintenance. We didn't read that last time, did we?
Yeah.
Did we?
Yeah.
Alright, so basically that is going on right now, that as soon as you do the implementation, which is you go there and you modify, you install the programs in the client's environment, then operation maintenance. So for the first, for let's say 2 weeks, you teach people, like all the employees or somebody, whoever they are, like, okay, this is how the application works and things like that. And later on, you're gonna have some kind of maybe like a telephonic, health service or something for the next, I would say, 3 months, 6 months period, whatever the agreement is. So what do? You just provide them services if they need anything. Something crashes, something didn't work out or something, maybe new releases comes in, I'm gonna upgrade the version a little more. So that's what all happens in here. It's like a help desk. After that, what does that mean? That means the end of that
Cycle.
application. Remember we said what is the life cycle? From the beginning to the end. So this is the last phase. So what does that mean? It's ending. And at that time, you're legally bound to give all the information to the client. You cannot keep it.
I have a question.
Sure.
For maintenance, right? Let's say you let out a new product, right? And like for the iPhone, right? You
Right.
have the new versions of the iOS system. So there's actually going to be bugs in the first thing, and they're going to give a new version. So that's technically maintenance. Well, not maintenance, but like something similar, right?
Patch.
Right. So then, if it's an ongoing cycle, how would you know when to like? You would need to test it out during the maintenance system too, right? So.
Well, during the maintenance systems, what happens? You get a lot of feedback from the end user.
Right.
So end users tells us, listen, you gave me a login functionality, it works and fine. I upload the picture, it doesn't take that picture. So it comes to you, and at that time, the developer fixes it.
Yeah.
But they might think about it. Remember the implementation? When you did that, remember the beta testing,
Yeah.
alpha testing? Those are real life scenarios. Those are like how the end user are going to use it. So most of the bugs are you going to catch in there.
Okay.
Okay? So there is a very more possibility that later on, of course you're going to find some bugs when the
Yeah.
end user sees it. But when end user sees it, your developers are going to fix it.
Okay.
But the end users usually sees it in the beta version. So, but real life, when they do it, at that time you need something. Okay, you know what? We're going to do a new release for you. So that's 6 months for you. They do a new release, but you do the whole testing thing again.
Okay.
Okay?
That's what I was asking.
Now, when I start talking about agile methodology today, you'll understand how these things work. Because right now it's a lot of definitions and things like that. Alright, so we did the definition. So look at this. Take a look at this. This is how the customer explained it, that I needed a swing. Correct? Think about it. In a tree, I'm going to put 2 ropes, and kids are going to sit in there or whatever, and they're going to just swing. How the project leader understood it. He understood it like this. He's going to go through the tree. They said, I need a swing that hangs in from the tree. He said, okay, fine, so this is it. This is how the system designed it. They cut the tree in the middle and it does work, but losing its functionality because that top portion, how you gonna hold it? Right? Now this is what happens, how the programmer wrote it. He saw the whole thing and was like, you know what, forget it, I'm gonna write it like this. But it's no swing, it'll fall off. Now, how the business consultant described it. How the project was documented. There's no documentation whatsoever. Why you need documentation? Because anything goes wrong, you will have something written there. Why it was wrong. It says in the functional requirements that you're going to have a login functionality. It doesn't say anything about forget your password. That's how I code it. So the programmer can say, you know what, it's not documented. How am I supposed to know that? So everything should be documented. When you send it to the implementation part, the production, they installed it like this. There's no, look at this. Nothing. How the customer was billed. Too much money. And this is how it was supported. Nothing. There was no support. What was the customer really needed? Just needed one rope and a tire wagon. But the customer explained it how. They explained it with details, a lot of different, I need this and that and all those things. What he actually wanted, a simple thing. So this is exactly happened in most cases during the thank you. Okay. So we talk about STLC, right? What is an STLC? That's basically analyzing the requirements, writing test plans, doing the test execution, writing test cases, doing the test execution, and then finally, if you log the bugs, close the bugs. That's what basically you're testing. What happened? Okay, I got it. Alright, so what is a test plan? Test strategy. Test strategy is not yours, it's done by test lead. Okay? Now, test plan. Who does test plan? Senior tester. Okay. What does test plan do?
Test plan
Describing the scope, approach, resources, schedule. Is basically telling you roles and responsibility. Who's going to test what? What to test, what not to test. So you're going to be a senior tester, you have 3 members in your team, you're going to say, alright, you know what, you deal with the functional testing, I'm going to deal with the regression testing, that person is going to do the performance testing. I'm just saying, give you an example. So roles and responsibility, you distribute it. And you're doing a plan. when we're gonna do this. Okay, first we're gonna do all the functional testing. All right, we're gonna all do the functional testing, but I'm gonna do IE, you're gonna do Chrome, you're gonna do Safari. We finished it. All right, let's do the regression testing. You do it in this. I'm gonna do all this, but meanwhile, you write some more test script. So whatever that, the whole plan you write. This is the test plan section. What is a test case?
Step by step, like details.
Right, but you gotta say it in words. A test case is a document. So always, most of the times you're gonna talk about this is the document. A test plan is a document. A test case is a document. A traceability matrix is a document. Right? Use case is a document.
Document. Describe.
User story what? It's a document. Who writes it? BA. And what does it have? Role, feature, and reasons. Right? User stories. Remember? Laundry. Not laundry. I'm sorry. As a user, I upload the picture so that my friends can see it. Right? Alright. Now, use cases and test cases. We have to talk about the differences, and you have read that. But test cases is basically step by step. In use cases, you just tell that I'm gonna have upload the picture, and then my friends can see it. Right? That's your use case. What is the test case for that?
Step one.
Step one.
Log in.
Open IE. Step two. www.facebook.com. 3.
Log in.
How do you log in?
Sign up. Sign in.
Username plus password. Number 4. Click login button. So it's a lot of details, isn't it? And then you're gonna upload the picture. So step by step. Test bed is what? Actual scenarios on how you execution environment configured for testing. So in most cases, you're gonna have a real life scenarios. These are test beds. So how are you gonna say, when they ask you what do you do with the test bed, what do you mean by test bed? So you basically say, you know what, you are actually making an environment that consists of specific hardware, operating system, network topology, topology and the configuration of the product under test. So in other words, let's say your client is Home Depot, you will have, however they're gonna configure in their station, in their company, they're gonna have some kind of hardware, they're gonna have a server and all those, you're gonna have an identical things in your computer setup, and then you're gonna test it in there. But you do a test bed, and usually what you do in there? Alpha testing. Production. Okay. Listen, all these things I'm keep repeating it because so that at one point you have that in your mind. So what is manual testing? Manual testing is basically says the word
without the use of
automation tools. So you manually test it. What is the advantage for manual testing? Because you sometimes go outside the box.
Outside the box.
use your imagination.
Right. You do your gorilla. Now, 100% of the automation testing is not possible. That's because you have to, what does automation do first? If you do want to do automation, you have to make sure that
manual testing is.
Now, you have to make sure the application is stable enough. It's sane. It's not insane. So to make sure that, you have to first go through the manual testing.
Right.
So there is no alternative for that. So what does automation means? Automation means same things you do manually,
but you have to use a tool.
You do the automation tools and write scripts before that. Alright? So we have the difference between that. I'm not going to go through this because we have read that before, right? Alright, now test script. Test script.
Automation.
Remember test cases? Step by step? What does test case? What do you mean by that? When you if I ask you what is a test case, what do you say first? Is a document. Exactly. So on things like that, you start with it. It's a document that gives step-by-step description for the to test that functionality of a specific, to test the application of a specific functionality. Right. So step by step. If I tell you not a specific functionality, that means I'm actually being vague in here. So in a Facebook, there are a lot of functionalities, probably 8 or 9 functionalities. For example, you can log into the Facebook, you can log out of the Facebook, you can go notification, You can upload the picture, you can upload a video, you can like somebody, you can go to somebody else's page and search it, right? Yeah, and share. So basically, and instant messages. I don't think there are much more than that. But if I tell you that test cases, write a test case for for the Facebook, it's not going to be one test case. It's going to be at least 100 test cases there, right? But each of them is going to have a specific functionality. So that's what I'm trying to understand. That I'm trying to make you understand that test case is a specific functionality, step-by-step process of a specific functionality. You have to mention that when you say it in the interview. Okay. Step-by-step process to test the specific functionality of the application. That means if I want to log in, I will have a test case for logging. If I have to video upload, I'll have a test case for video upload. Okay. Now, test script. Same test case, when you make it automatic, you have to use the automation tools. So you write test scripts, a set of instruction using a scripting and programming language. Right? So, for example, a login, how you manually test it? You open Internet Explorer, you go to www.facebook.com, I put username, I put the password, I click the login button. Same thing, I'm going to automatically do it that using tools, automation tools. We're going to do it later on. You will see how we do it. We record, run it, and it will automatically do the same thing we just did. It's going to do it like this. Probably things took you 1 minute. This is going to take 10 seconds. So automation tools have some advantages. What are the advantages? It takes less time.
Cost effective.
Error free. Right? If I put 0 and O, capitalized O, as a human, I'm probably going to make a mistake, but the computer is not going to make a mistake. Right? It's faster. It's money. Because over the long period of time, return ROI is good. Right? What else? It's repeatable, it's programmable, it's robust. That means, you can change it. Right? You understand what I'm trying to say here? Mm-hmm. All right. So, type of testing. Okay, we're talking. I'm just like going through it for a second. You see how fast I'm going? I'm not going through everything. White box testing, we know that.
Without any
Who does
knowledge of
Coding.
Programmer does it because they have the knowledge of the coding. We don't. Gray box is a mix, but unit testing is done by the programmer because they are seeing if the code is writing the right way. Now, shakeout testing is the configuration manager. Now, the black box testing, that's where we come in. Black box testing is basically testing the application without the knowledge of the coding. So, in other words, most of the application, most of the 80% of the software testing comes in under black box. What are the black box testing? First one is smoke testing, because this is the major functionality of the application. Also, it is called bill verification. Why? Because I can reject the bill. So what is a bill? What is a bill?
When they give you a complete documents of the
Something to test.
Yeah.
So it's like a folder, it's like a module they give you and you test it, right? That build, you can first go like, if my major functionality doesn't work, who cares about the rest of the stuff works or not? How am I supposed to test it because I cannot even get into the application? So this is actually a build verification. This one, smoke testing. Build verification test, correct? So major functionality. After that, what comes in?
sanity test.
Sanity test. And what does that mean?
to make sure the software.
After some other major functionalities of the software works. It's a little high level, but after smoke testing. By the way, why it calls it smoke testing? I'm just, it's not important, but just saying. Remember? Yeah, so that when a new right, so the new system is built. So when you first plug in, it doesn't make any smoke. Now, difference between smoke and sanity testing, we know about this. Now, what is the second one? Integration testing. What does integration mean?
If all the applications are connected properly.
Different modules. Different modules are
Connected properly.
interconnected. So you're making sure the modules are connected together. So if I go to the login, if I go to the sign up button, I click it, it should go to a sign up page. So that's another page, another module, right? So there integration. So this is tricky part because when we do the functional testing, most of the module testings are done already. But how do you know which module to which one? Because if I sign in, I'm obviously signed up, I'm obviously expecting to go to the sign up page, not in the sign in page. You know, so you will make sure the sign up page comes in. So that integration is done. Right? Now, functional testing, which is the 80% of the things that you're going to do, all the black box testing. So functional testing is what? Functional testing is the major, testing the major, the functionality of the application as per the request, as per the requirements written. So if my business analyst wrote a requirements or has written a requirement that says that a valid user can log into the Facebook. So what that should do? That should exactly do what the requirements did. Requirement says. That means that with my valid username, valid password, I should log in. Thank you. I should log into the Facebook. And my functional testing should be what? I'm putting username, a valid one. I'm going to put a password, valid one. I'm going to click the login. It should log in. That's the functionality I'm checking. So that's the functionality. Now, how's the negative functionality? There's a positive, that's the positive, and the negative one is
Invalid stuff. Put an invalid number.
Make sure you
wrong
get
password or wrong user address.
if you want to say it in a professional way, how you say it?
You put invalid information.
Invalid inputs or data.
Right.
So you write down if they ask you what is a negative testing, if they ask you what is a negative, so you should first ask them. You talk about negative functionality, correct? And then an interviewer is going to say yes, okay. What is a negative functionality? And then you can say, well, functionality is actually checking the major functionality, functionality of the application as per the requirements mentioned. But it can be positive or negative. Positive is when I'm using the correct data, and negative is when I'm using the
invalid.
negative data or invalid data. So for example, then you can say, for example, let's say login, instead of putting the valid username, I'm going to put it an invalid username and see if it works. So they can ask you another question right after that. Okay, so how many different ways can you check it? So you can say, okay, if there is a login functionality, I can put a valid username, invalid password, or invalid username, valid password, invalid username, invalid password. Both, nothing in there, empty, correct? Or I can say, if they say there is no special, I put the valid password, but at the end, I put a special character. See if it takes it. Doesn't take it. Or sometimes it should say a boundary. For example, that your username shouldn't be more than 50 characters, right? So you put like more than 50 characters. You keep pressing the 5 until it goes to the beyond, and you feel like, okay, this is 100 and 200 characters.
That's hard up testing, right?
That's like breaking it, but that's also a negative testing. That's also a negative testing. So that is ad hoc testing, which is he just mentioned. That means I'm trying to break the system. He told me to log in. I just put the valid username, valid password. But I'm not trying to break the system. What am I going to do? I'm going to keep pressing the enter 2-3 times or something, see if it works. You know what I mean? Like, let's say, try to break the system. See if it crashes. Then you can say, listen, your system has a bug. If you press 3 times, it doesn't work. Or it crashes. No. Or I can put the 5, I'm holding it keep going like this. Now I put the enter. See if it breaks.
Number 11 is the bug.
Which is?
Regression test.
You see it, huh? Nice. Which is if they wouldn't have that red mark, you wouldn't know.
No.
Yeah.
Lot of dekhine এখন দেখলাম.
Oh, you did that last week.
হ্যাঁ, ওটা থেকে বলছি।
What else you do?
E.
Good. Now, what is the regression testing? Regression testing is?
application retesting.
When do we do that usually?
After fix a bug,
After fix a bug and
Send it to the
when
to the
they send
developer.
it back to us.
Yeah. Back to the test.
who sends it to you?
The programmer.
After they fix the bug, the coder usually sends it back to you to retest it.
Retest it.
And regression test is also very important during the automation. Because automation, why are you doing it? If you can manually see it one time and never have to deal with it, why you need an automation tools? Automation tools is because every release, every time something comes in, you gotta test the whole thing again. So instead of going manually, what do? It's like computer doing this for me. I have already done it. So one time you do it, programming, it probably takes you a month or so, but next time it goes like this. So regression testing is very important for during automation. Regression testing has two parts. Fix. Fix is when you fix the application and you make sure it works, and the risk is
when you fix it, the other part of
Yeah,
the
you mess up another part.
so how you put that in good words. So if they ask you during the interview, so, okay, what is regression testing? What are you gonna say?
So you could say that something that was not fixed.
Listen, let me ask you this. What is regression testing?
Regression test to test something that was wrong, and then after fixing it, you retest it, it's working.
Right, but you say it in a differently. You said the whole thing in one sentence. But in the interview, they will take you interview at least 35 minutes or 25 minutes. Okay? First 5 minutes you're going to talk about yourself. And then they're going to start asking you questions. So you don't want to give short answers so that they ask you so many other questions. And then they're going to say, okay, you know what, out of 20 questions you only answered 10. But if they ask you 10 questions, if you answer them 8 of them right, and he's going to say what? You know what? You put 80%. You understand? It's a trick.
Yeah.
So you're gonna kill time by saying it. So you're gonna talk softly. So let's say that you ask me the question. Ask me the question.
What is a regression test?
Well, regression testing is nothing but retesting an application. So we need retesting the application when there is a bug fix in there. But there are two parts of regression testing. One is regression risk fix, one is regression risk. So when the developers fix, so when the tester finds a bug and send it to the developer sends it back by fixing it, we do regression fix. So we're making sure that the part that wasn't working before now it works enough. Now regression risk is tricky. So you can like make a friendly conversation with them. They can say regression risk is sometimes coders unintentionally damages the working part of the application. So we have to make sure with the regression risk fix if the other parts are intact as well or not, if the other parts are still working or not. That's your regression fix. So this is how you say it. And trust me on this one, when you say it, at least 1.5 minutes gone by. He's not going to ask you for another regression portion again if you answer it. Yeah, and then he's gonna, okay, so regression risk and fix, you guys understand? What was the example that we did?
Air conditioning of the car.
Air
condition and heater, correct? So remember that part. So you can actually say that. Like for example, let's say, yeah, I'm fixing an air condition in the car, but I gave it to the mechanic, he fixed it, but now my heater doesn't work. So I gotta make sure my air conditioner works as well as my heater works too. So we know this. What is that? GUI testing. What is GUI?
Graphics user interface.
Graphic user interface. Graphic user interface. Graphical.
Oh, graphical.
Graphical user interface. That means what you see. Interface is what?
You can click on it.
Something you interact with.
You can click on it.
What do you interact with? Clicking, watching things, seeing objects. So graphical user interface, the GUI testing is what? Basically making sure the GUI version of the application, which you see, is what you interact. Yes? Good. It's nothing to do with any functionality. Remember that. It's not the functionality of the application. Any question? Now backend testing, very important for a tester. Backend testing is what? You want to make sure whatever input you put in the front end matches the backend. What is the front end? The application. What is the backend? The database. Database. What is that? Which is a server. So how do you test it? So for example, let's say you work for eBay, and eBay has an application. So you've got to first log in, correct? As a valid user. And then you're going to go there, you're going to shop, you're going to put something in the cart. So that's another test case. But you're not going to do it because you're going to test this one differently. So you're going to log in, you're going to put items in the shopping cart, and then you're gonna pay for them. In your application, you can use some dummy credit cards, and they're gonna take it because they will make an application for you like that. So you're gonna pay for it, and what happens? As soon as you pay, your balance should be according to the payment, how much you pay. Correct? So let's say your items cost $80 and you pay the balance should be 20. Now this is your front end. You actually put it in the application. You put that $60 in the application and the credit card. Now, close that application. But you write this amount. You write these three amounts in a piece of paper. Okay? Take a screenshot of that. When you put the $60, it should tell you balance and all those things right in the application.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, that's another bug. But if it tells you, you take a screenshot of that. How will you take this screenshot? And print screen. Every computer should have a PRTSC. When you hit this and print screen, then you can open Paint and go Control V, which is pasting. So that whole thing is going to come in. You can short paste it, and we'll let you do it as soon as you get your computer. Now, you take a screenshot. So what do you do now? You go to bank information. Now, which database you open? Oracle database. Oracle database or whatever database your company uses. It can be MS Server, it can be Oracle, it can be DB2, it can be Informix, anything. What happens, as soon as you open that, you're going to have tables, you're going to connect to it. And when we write that database, when you're going to start the SQL class, you will know how to write queries. But I showed you last week, remember, select, let's say, balance from pay table, okay, where you have a valid username, don't you?
Yeah.
Username equal, let's say, Babu. That's how I logged in. It's gonna tell you how much is the balance. What it should say? 20, correct? If it doesn't say 20, what happens? There is a bug, there's a problem. So what do? You take a screenshot of that too. And what do? You open your bug tracking tools, QC, whatever you do, you open that and you write down a new bug, right? You click new. And then as soon as you open that, it's going to say subject. What subject you going to put? Let's do some brainstorming. What we should put in here?
Found bug.
No. You should be specific about that. So you should write down
Found bug for balance.
pay bills does not
Match with the
remaining balance at the back end of the database or whatever you want to write down. Just idea. Then what do? You assign it to the person. You assign it. You actually
all that
testers and all other peer members. You actually CC them. Okay. And then what version? What what is the URL? All these things you're gonna write down in the body part. Okay. Test it on operating system, like let's say, in Windows,
Internet Explorer.
8 or 9 in 64 bits, operating system 64 bits, and use this www this, and my version was this, my release number was this, my revision was this. It's gonna have it in the application at the bottom anyway. Every application has something, a release version, or you'll know exactly what release you're working on. So you write it down, and then you write down step 2, reproduce. How you found that bug. So you're gonna say exactly, I logged in with a valid username, I went to the item, this I searched, and then I added to the cart, and then I did this, pay this, and the balance was saying this, then I opened Oracle, I wrote the query, selected and all this, and this is the balance I got. Make sense?
So you send the bug, but we have to find out if anybody find before.
Very important. Yes, but make sure before you do that, you have to make sure that you do that a couple of times actually. 2-3 times actually you do it, and I was like, wait a second, is this really a bug? Because sometimes your data is probably not working. It's probably not connected. Okay? And then you go and when you open QC, there is a search button there, filter, where you can say filter, you can put like, you know, search for criteria like balance, payment, or something. You can put their payments, you know, like, and then see if when you write balance, how many, then you'll see probably 20 or 30 different bugs comes in. And you just read the subject lines and say, see if anybody else actually logged that bug in or not. You don't want to duplicate bug. Okay? Make sense?
Yeah. It's a very important one.
Yeah, I mean, actually, you're going to do a lot of that. That's like, you know, database is very important. Every company must have a database. Remember that.
Another thing, we have to write so many stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Your answer is yes. You have to write all those.
How
So,
much to writing?
yeah, you basically, what you do is like, you know, when you log some bugs, right? Some of the bugs are very similar. So what you can do is that you can just copy paste that portion of that and just check the reproducible steps a little bit. Almost of us you'll know. You'll be like typing is very quick. That's why typing is, you know, fast typing. Randy I work with, you should see his typing, and I look at typing. I was like, you make me look like a man, I'm like the illiterate person. He goes like, I swear to God, he types like that. I'm like, what?
Control Z.
So if I made a mistake, what should I do now?
Control Z.
Good. Control Z. That means undo. See, this kind of things you will keep repeating it. Some people are getting it, some people don't get it. And cross-browsing. Compatibility testing. Compatibility testing is what? Cross-browsing testing and cross-platform. Cross-browsing testing is, let's say you are working on the Firefox, you make sure Google Chrome works, same thing works on Internet Explorer, Safari. Cross-platform is. Internet Explorer maybe have
Operating system.
different operating systems. So I have Windows, Unix, Mac operating system, but sometimes it has you know, how do you say that? Compatibility testing. That you have, let's say IE, right? Internet Explorer, IE9, IE10, IE11, IE12. You gotta make sure if that company still uses our IE9 and IE10, because I tell you what, let's say you are working for JCPenney, or like let's say your client is JCPenney. In my computer, I have IE9. I change it to IE10 or IE11 or IE12. It's easy. But the company, you know how many employees they have? Probably 100,000. How many stores they have statewide? JCPenney, I would probably say, let's say 100 or 200 stores. They each have one manager, one, you know, like let's say assistant manager, one night manager, whatever. So they have 3 individual computers. So they probably have 500 computers they gotta change. It's not that. You gotta have a bill, you know, sanction comes in from HRs and all those, so their budget. So changing all those. So probably you are still using, you know, IE12, they're using IE9 because they haven't changed it yet.
Same as the window too, right?
Right, the window too. Operating system, they're probably using something old. And that's when you have to test if that is compatible with that version of the IE as well or not. That's your compatibility testing as well. Now sometimes you have to do competitive testing. That means if your competitors, is this one works as good as your competitors. So who is a competitor for Facebook? Twitter. Or Snap.
MySpace not there anymore.
Right, but MySpace was at one point. It's usually for music people.
Music, yeah.
Yeah. So MySpace. End-to-end testing. End-to-end testing is
Flow of the application from start to
start
end.
to finish. And it says each and every functionality from login to
Log out.
log out. End-to-end testing. It's like a really detailed test. Now, system test.
It's a complete.
You see that two bullet points? One is functional, one is so what is the functional part? We just talked about all this functional that we do. And the non-functional part, what is that? That's the important one right now.
GUI testing, load.
Performance testing. So what does performance testing mean? It has nothing to do with the functionality of the application, but how the system behaves with the workloads.
Right, yeah.
Okay? So we have what kind of testing on the functional testing?
Alpha test.
Alpha.
No, functional, non-functional testing.
Volume
Performance,
testing.
volume.
Load testing, stress testing,
Volume, volume.
performance testing, volume testing, scalability testing, endurance testing, those are. They're very much very similar, but the main purpose is one is that making sure how the memory leaks in there. What is the, if there is any memory leak, if the application is working with a lot of users coming in at the same time, right? If I have 5,000 users comes in and my system crashes, that means I have a problem. So I have to make sure.
Why do you call that a memory leak?
Memory leak is something that even if you do not use the computer, it loses its memory. So memory, okay, so computer has what kind of memory?
RAM.
Random access memory. When you do a computer, your computer comes in with it. And I mentioned, remember 6 gigabytes or 8 gigabytes RAM? Then you have read-only memory. Then you also have cache memory. Then you have hard drive, which is another memory. This one, you store things. This one, what does it do?
Process application.
Right. So the bigger that is, let's say,
The faster it is,
No.
let's say this is an interstate. Cars are going this way, cars are coming this way. It has 2 lanes. How many cars can pass by every day? Let's say every minute 100 cars can pass by. If I have 2 lanes, how many cars can pass by?
200
each.
What does that mean? That means the bus route is giving me more bandwidth, more space to go through. The bigger the RAM is, the faster the computer is. But every time computer, when it opens, it takes some of them and put it in here to run the computer. Like your computer BIOS and all those. So we're going to take one class for that if you want to understand. But this is not necessary for testing anyway. So we'll talk about that. And accepted testings, we remember we talked about alpha and beta. So alpha testing is in-house testing on the developer side, and beta testing is
the client side.
real user, client side. It's an external, real environment. You put that at end user. That means, let's say, JCPenney is your client, and you made an application for JCPenney so that they can buy buy their clothing and whatever from there. And then what they do, you went there and you installed their computers, and they say, all right, you know what? You have some customers. All right, fine. So they're gonna probably randomly choose 100 customers who are frequent customers. So listen, go online and shop and see how it goes. So they're gonna go online, like, oh no, it's not user friendly. Oh, I don't like that, and then all this. End users always have some kind of feedbacks. But you're not gonna have to take everything. But as a matter of fact, if there's any good feedback, they analyze it and they change it. So beta testing is acceptance testing. You can validation. It's a validation. So what is a validation and the verification? Remember we talked about yesterday? Before I go there, end user of the product to obtain feedback from the product quality. Beta testing reduces product failure risk and provides increased quality of the product through customers' validation. So now comes in what is a validation and what is it? Verification. V. This is this is validation. This is when you making sure if you are making the right product.
product right.
And this one is, are we doing it? Are we producing it right way? Product right product. What is the difference? That means if they tell you make a car, you're making a car. Are we making the car the right way? It has tires, all those things. But now you're taking, are we doing the product right? That means, what customer wanted from me? They wanted 4 headlights, right? Right? They have 2 doors or 4 doors, whatever the functionality mentioned. That's what you're going to make sure. That's your validation. That means customers Satisfaction.
Sambucabil or sambucabil.
Well, yeah, those things comes in. So therefore, your validation comes in. Verification. Okay, we're gonna write it. So you know what? Let me go to the verification part. It's something I added today. Before that, where were we? Alpha beta testing, correct? So we're gonna come in here. So difference. I'm gonna read this. It is not always easy to explain the difference between these two terms. To make so, we have to ask the following questions. Validation, are we building the right system? Verification, are we building the system right? Actually, I did it the other way.
Well,
I wrote it wrong.
No.
It should be verification or validation. All right. So, all right, in the validation, the checking whether the system is well engineered. In the validation, well engineered. That means two headlights and all those. Without error, while validation, in verification, these two are confusing me right now. All right, so, okay, let's switch it. So let's say verification, what are we doing? We're making sure that we're right, doing the right product. So, well engineered, without error. And whether checking system meets the customer's need. Validation means what customers need.
No, verification.
no,
No, validation.
but it-
Validation is customer's need. Alright, so let's say an example. The system requires there are two fields with maximum length of 50 characters and save button. Let's say the system requirement says that there are two fields with maximum length of 50 characters, which is, let's say, your username, and a save button. The use case says the user will fill in the first and last name and click
Unsafe.
save. Now let's say you're testing the application. So what are you going to do? You're going to put 50 characters and you're going to first name for 50 characters, let's say Mohammad Abdul Hamid Korean Rahmat Abdullah, whatever, you put 50 characters. And the last name, whatever you put, and then you put save button. So what should you do? You should save it. While checking the presence of the field of the saving, so you're gonna see when you're doing the verification, you're gonna say, okay, if there is any username field in there, if there is any password or first name field in there, is there a last name field there, is there a save button in there? Correct?
Right.
So you're making verifying it if those buttons are existing or not. In actuality, you actually put the first name 50 characters, last name 50 characters, click the save button. That's your validation. That means those things works or not. The first you're making sure those are there or not. That's your verification. How do you validate it? You're validating it if the functionality works or not. You following me, guys? Anybody lost? You lost.
No, say you're doing something, then you're confirming it's there. That's
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is
Two
true.
different things. Like,
Yeah.
I looked. Then you say I looked and I found they were there. So I'm validating that it was there.
You guys, anybody lost here? Shake. You want me to repeat it?
No, it's fine.
You sure?
Yeah, it's fine.
No, it's there. I know you can read it later on, but I'm saying that try to see if there is a 50 characters, there is a first name and last name. The use case says, use case, remember?
Yeah.
Statements.
Document.
Stories.
That's your
stories.
test case.
Use that action.
Use cases is stories.
Use case.
The definition. of the
User
document.
story, there is something else. Use case, there's something else.
Or use case.
What is the user story?
User story over from B actually. And
Okay.
use case is like for tester.
Because story is an actor telling when you are.
So you guys are confused about use case and the user story. We talked about it today.
User action, right?
User action system response.
Specific functionality.
What is the use case?
User action system response, so specific functionality.
So,
What does it have?
alternate flow.
Correct.
Flow, basic flow.
But what is the user story?
The story,
The document. Who can tell me what is user story?
It's a document.
Don't look at the book.
It's a document that an end user gives, have an expectation of the software, what they're going to use and what they're going to, the end result's going to be.
Okay, and who does that? BBA? BA. And what? How does he write it?
From the in
It's a very specific one.
I as a user, as a
As per the
user,
requirement.
As a
as a user, I want to be able to
So
log into
role,
Facebook. Role,
feature,
features,
reasons.
reason, yeah.
Well, that's your.
User stories.
That's your. এখানে কি আছে এটা?
User stories.
What does it say? Here. What does it say? Right here.
User stories.
Role, as a role, feature,
And what does it say? User story.
Right.
Agile development user story is captured to describe the software feature from end user's perspective. You guys will be asked, I will ask you every day from now on, what is the test case? What is the use case? What is the user story? Okay? And who writes what? Who writes test case? Test engineer. It can be developer, it can be test engineer. Who writes the use case? Who writes the user story? Exactly. Use case. When you write the user stories, right? After that, you can get your use case from there. You can get your test case from there. But you have to have requirements. Requirements are called user story in agile environment. What is the requirement?
Need.
Customer's need. But it's like a high level way they write it. You don't get, you have to go inside and break it down to get test cases.
Yeah.
So what does it say? Based on the test cases, cannot be prepared derived from. So you cannot get use case from test case, but you can get use case. Use case cannot be executed means it's only designed. Because it has a alternative flow, it has a precondition, postcondition, it has actors, like you mentioned, stakeholders, like they're gonna say. So a laundry person, a laundryman, Wednesday gonna come in and do the laundry.
Use case.
That's the use case.
A test case will like step by step.
Step by step, you're gonna say she's gonna open the lock, she's gonna turn on the lights, she's gonna detail every single step she's gonna do it. Okay? But use case not gonna tell you exactly, but it's gonna tell you what the system is gonna do when that user enters an action. So, use case is a document which describes the user's action and the system response of the specific functionality. And test case is a step-by-step process of the specific functionality. Step by step. It's user story more like a story based, and test case is exactly step-by-step written documents. Guys, this is very important. I cannot emphasize anymore how important test case, use case, and user stories are.
It's like even you understand, it's getting used to the say the way they want to
Do
hear.
you think why am I reporting?
I know. Now you
Repeating this?
gotta read it over and over.
Over and over, I'm repeating it so that if you do not understand that, that's not
Like
what's the
can't
point.
respond. Like I see what's going on. Like I understand, but the way you want to hear it, it's like you have to
Right,
read.
I understand that you don't have to know, but at least get the concept
No,
here.
no.
What is a build? Version of the program.
The version of the program.
As a rule, build is a pre-release version. So it can have a lot of builds in there. So when we do that, okay, sprint You don't have to do that because right now you wouldn't understand, but I'm gonna read it. It's like, let's say something to do with
Time frame.
time. Okay? Yeah, it's like something to do with time. Okay? Sets period of time. Set period of time. Let's just remember that part. Okay? Sprint is a set period of time. So we did alpha testing, beta testing, where that go? Manual testing, we did unit testing, alpha testing, beta testing.
No, we went this one.
Alpha testing. And then non-functional testing, we did those testing, you can read those. Okay, memory leak, we do difference
Yes,
between
we are-
verification and validation. We did that, right?
Up to
We
that.
are on that.
did that.
Right.
We were there.
Right.
Okay. Okay, verification would help determine whether the software is of high quality, but it will not ensure the system is useful. You guys understand that? Somebody read this.
Okay.
Not Tawfiq. Shall read it?
Yeah, a little bit bigger. Verification will help to determine whether the software is of high quality, but it will not ensure that the system is useful.
So that means I know that login button is there, first name is there, last name is there, but I don't know if I can put anything in there or if that works. So verification is making sure those buttons are there, and validation is making sure those button works. You guys understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the difference between verification and validation. Validation part, it is human-based checking documents and files. And the validation is it's a computer-based execution of program. So, forget about that right now. Number 4, verification uses methods like inspections, reviews, walkthroughs, desk checkings. Validation uses methods like black box testing. That means you are actually checking the functionality of the application, correct? So what do? You do functional testing, gray box testing, white box testing, because sometimes they find out if the unit code works or not. So developers and testers both do it, right? Who does the unit testing?
A programmer,
Programmer.
it's like a white
Because
box.
it's a white box testing. Okay? Number 5. Validation part. Validation is to check whether software meets the customer's expectations and requirements. Now, number 6. It can catch errors that validation cannot catch. It is a low-level exercise. It cannot catch errors that verification cannot catch. It is a high-level exercise. Username. What's wrong with you, man? Password. Login. You okay, Festus? Yeah. Have a break?
No, I'm good.
No, if you want to, I can give you guys a break. That's fine. Because this is part. This verification is gonna be asked in the interview. They will ask you what is the verification, what is the validation. Okay, number 9. Read it. It generally comes.
First, before validation.
Before validation.
Generally follows after.
After verification.
Okay. Number 8. Verification is done by. That means it doesn't say whether it is a tester, it's a developer, it's a program manager, it's a lead, it's a project manager or not. It can be somebody high officials who does it, reviews and all this, it's a manager point of view. But who does validation?
Testing.
Testing team. That means a tester, either developer or the tester. Okay. Bug life cycle. Did we talk about that?
A little bit.
One second, guys. Hello? Yeah. Kasha, the partition. আমি নদীর সাথে দেখা করে তারপরে যাবো, মানে আমি নদীর সাথে দেখা করে, আমি ফার্স্ট আমি বলে যাবো না, তুই থাকো কেন, আমি সোজা বাসা যাবো, বাসা যাবো, আপনি দেখি গাড়ি নিয়ে কোথায়। হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে, okay. Sorry guys. So bug life cycle, what is a bug? Bug is an error. And how many times we find a bug? A lot of times. Because every application
Has bugs.
has a bug. What is a bug life cycle? Bug life cycle is finding the bug until closing the bug. And how do you do a bug report? Somebody read. Okay, Robin, read.
Bug report. Once a bug,
Sorry, bro.
that's okay. Okay, bug report. Once a bug is found, first make sure it is a valid bug by trying to produce it for several times. Why?
Because making sure it's a valid bug.
Right.
Sometimes it's a networking problem. Sometimes your computer probably doesn't have the right environment or something. So you make sure
It's
it's a valid bug. Okay?
If valid, immediately take a screenshot and save it in your computer. The bug report.
How do you do the screenshot?
Control
And then you open, paint,
Paste.
Paste it.
and copy paste it, or even Microsoft Word, or even documents and documents. But mostly paint. Control V, or you can go file, paste, or view, paste, whatever. Okay? Now go ahead.
The bug report should accurate and complete. Should be
Yes. Should be.
accurate and complete. It should be divided into various categories like GUI, functional or business, functional or business, navigational, validation error, etc., which will again help to categorize the bugs in the bug management.
Bug management system or whatever. Okay, go ahead.
Before adding a bug, make sure that you are not adding duplicate bug, which is already logged. Many of the bugs tracking system are helped to identify or prevent to add duplicate bug, which is
Remember filtering.
which is restricting to adding unnecessary bugs, which will help to reduce rework in case of bug management. Along with bug report, adding few extra information would definitely help developer to get exact scenario or steps to understand the problem, like types of hardware and software, environment configuration, setup, version like browser version and name, etc.
Okay, now Tawfiq read. Thank you, brother.
Along with
Bug title.
bug title. This is the title of bug help to identify bug in one-liner description.
Well, how many liner?
One-liner.
Okay.
Bug identifier. It is auto-generated unique ID.
Very important. When you click new, it automatically gives you a bug number. You don't have to write the bug number.
That's an automation tool.
No, that's a new bug tracking tool. When you hit the new bug,
Yeah.
it automatically generates a bug
ID
tracking
number.
number, ID number.
Okay.
Okay? Go ahead.
Helps to identify the bug. In the bug tracking tool, this field is auto-populated.
Okay.
Description. This should cover bug description along with exact steps to reproduce, expected result, actual result, and example. Status. This field indicates the actual status of the bug in the bug lifecycle. Here are the list of bug statuses in the standard bug lifecycle. New, assigned, resolved, reopened, verified. Vary based on bug tracking tool. Bug assignee. This is the name of the developer who is responsible to resolve the bug. Bug CC. Add the manager and lead email address in CC list. In the bug tracking tool, this field is auto-populated based on configuration. reported on, the date on which the bug has occurred and reported the bug. In most cases, it is auto-generated.
Exactly.
Browser. This field indicates on which browser and version this issue has occurred. Bug type. The bug is categories into different categories like functional, navigational, GUI, etc. Environment. On which operating system, platform this bug is occurred. Component. This field indicates the sub-module